This is Matt Pearce. Jesus Christ gave us the goals, but Gandhi gave us the tactics.
Okay, let's see who is here tonight with us.
Hello, everyone. It's Matt Pearce. I'm back. I'm still alive, and I'm back. I'm sorry. I would like to apologise that I've been away for over 4 months. Some of you will probably remember I've been in prison for 4 months. But I'm back, and
Ken is here.
Yeah,
hi everybody.
Ken, our coordinator, is here again. So we're going to be starting the show up again once every 2 weeks. We changed the day, so it's going to be coming out in the middle of the week on Thursdays. Eddie is here tonight, just as a one-off, to sort of reintroduce and ask me some questions. A bit, and he's going to ask some questions and remind people about my background and the demonstration for which I was imprisoned. He's going to ask some questions about that. But in following weeks, it's going to be Dr. Chan, who was here before. Plus, we're going to have an extra guest each time, and it's going to be 4 different guests, and they're going to rotate. Those 4 are going to be a Canadian radio host, Lee Kar-ho, also Andrew To, Quan Hang, and Jolie Y-Yi, and also Kenneth Lee, who did a show with us once before. But I'll talk more about, perhaps if I mention it at the end, or we'll wait till next time and we'll talk more about it, the different guests. But Eddie, I think, wants to ask me a few questions.
Oh, let me say a few words first. I'm so glad and honored for being invited.
Oh, well. Well, I remember you came on once before, didn't you, when I first started the radio show in the beginning?
We started the show.
Yeah. I remember you asked me 1 or 2 quite tough questions, actually. Got my brain going. I do remember.
You got me. You scare me a bit tonight because you have brought so many books around.
I've been walking around. Well, this is some of the books I was reading in prison, actually.
So talking about prison, I really want to ask you one thing. And is prison a good place to read books?
It's an excellent place to read books, actually. And sometimes I can be a bit lazy. And, in the world of with TV and so many distractions in the outside world, it's sometimes difficult to read books. But believe me, books were wonderful in prison. Really wonderful. It was the best thing to do, actually, in prison, was to read books. And I was amazed. A lot of the other people in there, the other prisoners, I was surprised that they weren't really interested in reading books. But I had an absolute stack of books, and I read so many books. Just in those 4 months, I read more books than I have done in the previous 10 years. Yeah.
So in case you want to be a bookworm, then try your best to get into the prison.
Yeah.
Okay, talking about the books that you have read, did you have a list before you get in? Or?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I knew that I was going to be in prison for a few months. I didn't know exactly how long, but I did. I got basically a stack of books, and I read some heavy sort of political books, and also some light-hearted books.
These are the kind of books that I will never read.
Oh, yeah? Why? Just a bit too
thick.
A bit too thick, yeah?
Yeah. Do you guys call it doorstopper in English?
Yeah, maybe doorstopper is the right word, actually. Yeah. But there's a book. I read a book. Tell
the audience what kinds of book we have.
I've got autobiographies, actually. One by Martin Luther King. One by Nelson Mandela. Another one by Mahatma Gandhi.
Well, you said a coincidence because they are all people that we quote on the T-shirt of LSD.
Yeah, absolutely. They are very interesting characters and what they did in terms of their movement in their country. And I'm very interested in getting activists in Hong Kong thinking about how other democracy movements, fought for democracy. Obviously, I think Hong Kong is, the democracy movement. You've got to think carefully about the strategy and what works best in Hong Kong in 2009, and what worked in their country won't work here. But saying that, all of those guys were, and it's interesting that they influenced each other quite heavily, I think. And, I know that the democracy movement in Hong Kong, they're aware of them, but, I'm not, I'm not convinced that enough activists know in detail exactly what they did.
So from what you are reading, I guess what are you going to do to be the theorist of LSD? Of the Hong Kong Social Democrats.
Well, I'm going to be spending a bit more time. Hopefully, I'm talking. I'm doing more activism behind the scenes and talking to different members of LSD, and anyone else who's interested to listen. Have some exchange a bit and just get people thinking. Because obviously, I wasn't born in Hong Kong. I grew up in a totally different culture. But I can see how being born in Hong Kong. And especially, a lot of people who've never lived outside Hong Kong, it can only be helpful, I think, for Hong Kongers to have an exchange and about the different ideas and stuff about and how to move the democracy movement forward, I think.
But let's get back to the reason why you were being jailed. This time.
Yeah, but basically, people might remember I climbed the Singmar Bridge during the Olympics on the day of the opening ceremony, and hung two banners across two road signs right the way across the middle of the bridge. And that the police had to come down, and they actually closed the bridge for 2 hours, and the car drivers had to use the lower deck. There's actually a lower emergency deck which they opened, but obviously it did create quite a traffic jam. But obviously, I calculated in my mind that it was possible for an activist to do what I did and get away with it, if you like, but with a relatively short sentence. Because obviously,
no, I think the sentence is really severe. Really. I'm kind of unexpected.
Yeah, because obviously I was sentenced for 6 months, but they take a third off for good behaviour in prison, so I was there for exactly 4 months. It was a completely peaceful protest, and there was absolutely no violence whatsoever, completely peaceful, and it is controversial to throw someone in prison for a completely peaceful demonstration,
and for such a long time.
But as an activist, sometimes you've got to be prepared for it, and I was prepared for it, and ended up being thrown in prison for a few months. But in terms of the actual demonstration, I perhaps I'd be interested. I think some listeners might be interested to know exactly how I did it, actually.
Yeah.
Because obviously I visited the location quite a few times before before the actual day, in the weeks and months beforehand. And people reading about it in the newspaper, they might not get a full idea of exactly the sort of the planning that would go into something like that. Obviously also I read the law beforehand, and I would encourage all sort of activists or people within LSD who are thinking of different types of demonstrations to read the law very carefully. And there was a landmark